You know, when we're making a quilt, just the piecing of it, it kind of tells a story. But sometimes we want to make our own custom quilting design because nothing else will do. I'm going to be working on the beautiful Baby Lock Altair today, and we are going to create our own custom quilting design to finish saying what we started to say when we pieced the quilt. I'm Cathy, and this is Sewing Tech Talk. Like I said, when you piece the quilt, you're really only doing the beginning of the story. And we are telling a story when we put a quilt together. So the story may be, oh, I have this beautiful fabric. I love this geometric design. The colors, just look at the combination of the colors. Or you could have some imagery on the quilt. And that's the beginning of your story. But quilting, well, it's not really a quilt till it's quilted. And quilting can finish telling that story. So this was the case with me when I started this quilt. I had some really fun fabric and it had these flying cranes. And I like cranes, I just think they're really pretty. And they're symbolic of good luck, I think. But anyway, I had these cranes, but I had a small piece of fabric. So when I put this quilt together, these pieces from this charm pack that I had, this fabric just kind of went with it. But I really only had a small piece of fabric. And so what I decided to do is take some of the larger cranes, cut them out, put a fusible back on them, and fuse them to the top of my quilt. There's some of the fabric that I could use, right? There's some of the fabric that I could use, but I spread the cranes all over this fun quilt. And when I got finished with it and it's time to quilt, I said, you know, it would be really neat if I had all kinds of cranes flying across my quilt, like they're flying, taking up into the air. Well, by the time I looked and found a crane quilting design, by the time I boot up my computer, I could be creating one on the IQ Designer on the Baby Lock Altair. So that's what I want to take you through that process today. I want to take you through having some inspiration, some kind of quilting design that's going to help finish telling the story of your quilt. And let's see how we can create our own custom quilting design using IQ Designer. Now, another point I want to make today is I was chatting with a colleague the other day, and we were talking about drawing in IQ Designer. And my colleague said, you know, I just really can't draw. Well, I get it. A lot of people have drawing anxiety, but we're kind of really just tracing. And there's some tricks that you can use to get a nice trace when you're doing an image in IQ Designer. Or, as we'll see pretty soon, you could actually just let the machine create the design for you from a coloring book image or something that you picked up online. So let's start with the drawing aspect. Now, on the Altair, IQ Designer is connected through the machine with an app called the IQ Positioning app. It says positioning, but you really use it for a whole lot more. So what I did is I took my quilt that I had started, and I had my cranes on there that I had, that I had started to free motion quilt around. And I could have free motion quilted the rest of the cranes, but wouldn't it be nice if the machine did it for me? Because I planned on a lot of different birds going across this quilt. So anyway, so I quilted around mine, and I wanted to trace this crane. So what I did is I hooped it up, and using the special hoop that comes with the Altair, it's special because it has these black and white graphics on the hoop. And you're going to use the IQ Positioning app on your mobile device to take a picture of what's in the hoop. Now, it doesn't have to be fabric, although it could be. You could have a printed image. I could have just taken this fabric before I even cut it up and took a picture of it. So any kind of image you can bring in if you take a picture of it and bring it in. Like I said, you can also take a picture off the internet, download it to your mobile device, and send it to the machine. We'll do that in a little bit as well. So what you do is you put it in your hoop, and you're going to take a picture of it with your mobile device. It's going to capture that picture and send it off to IQ Designer. Now, What I want to do is I want to think about which image I'm going to use to take in to make my quilting design out of. And I'm going to be tracing it. And here's a first drawing tip that I'm going to share with you. Sometimes when we try to draw something and it's the orientation that we're familiar with, where our brain thinks, oh, I'm drawing this bird, and it ignores the fact that this bird is just a whole bunch of different shapes. For my first suggestion, and all these suggestions are in the handout that I provide for this and all my other videos. Go to the description of the video. It's usually highlighted in blue. Click on it and it'll take you to the page where you can scroll through and see all of my different handouts for using IQ Designer and all the other different subjects that I talk about as well. So when I hoop up my bird, what I did is I hooped it up so it was in a different orientation than I'm used to. In other words, he's going straight down. That means when I trace him, I'm just going to see the shapes. I'm not going to be seeing a bird. I'm just going to be looking for the shapes. And that's the one thing that you can do when you're trying to draw anything. You can take it and put it upside down, sideways, and you're more likely to see just the shapes than you are the image of what it is. So let's do that. I took a picture. Let's go to IQ Designer and see if there's tricks that we can use to trace our bird and make our own custom quilting design. So let's put him on the machine. We took a picture of him, and oh my goodness. Now, when you're doing embroidery quilting, I also have tips in my handout about all the different ways that you can do embroidery quilting, because it's all about bulk management and all the different ways that you can use your embroidery machine to get a really neat quilting design. Now remember, the embroidery machine is going to do a really perfect one according to the design that we create, but you can also do your own thing when it comes to getting the design ready. So let's head over to IQ Designer and let me show you how I did this. So first of all, I took my picture and I used the IQ positioning app. And there's two ways to bring in a design. I could use the photo frame for creating a design. Like I said, I could take my picture, I could take a picture of it inside the hoop and bring it on in. Or I could pick an image that's already built on my mobile device. And there's all kinds of inspiration that you can use when you're doing this kind of a thing. I did my bird, but what if you are doing, say you're doing a nature quilt? What if you had all kinds of cool images of maybe trees or flowers or leaves or something that could be a great inspiration for you to finish telling the story of your quilt? So for example, these are pictures that I could have had on I did have on my mobile device, and I could send them directly. Now that's kind of complicated, but I could use it for inspiration. There's some leaves. There's one of my storks now. I think it's a stork. I could use the wagon wheel, and I could use all kinds of very complicated images, but I can simplify them. But let's look at my fabric and see what I did. So I took that picture of what's in the hoop, I sent it off to IQ Designer, and I'm going to find it here under the Bring in an Image tab. Now, I have three different ways. I could bring it in on a USB stick, or I could touch the wireless, which is how it was sent in using the app. And usually, it is the top one. I brought in an image since. There's one. There's another one of my images that I sent in. That's the one I think we're going to use. So when I hit set, it's going to bring in that image, and I'm just going to use this image to trace. Now, a little bit later on, we are going to have the app itself, the IQ Designer itself, trace it for me. But let's talk about tracing it. Now, here is my bird, and I can make him darker. But what I want to do is I want to see him just as an outline to trace. So I'm going to make him a little bit lighter. And actually, I could make him go away all the way if I wanted to, but I just want something to trace. Now, Up here, there's the different places I can deal with the lines, and that's basically all I want when I'm doing a quilting design. So I'm going to come into the Line Properties menu, and I have 4 different ways to draw. I can do just a basic curved line, a free-form line. I could do a free-form line that completes itself. I could do a straight line, and I could do angles. And I have different ways to stitch it out. I really just want a single or double run of a line to do my quilting, right? And I'm going to pick a color that's going to show out on my design. So having done that, oops, I think I wanted to complete that image. And you can play and see which one works for you. Now, here's the trick when you're tracing an item. You're going to want to practice. And you're going to want to get over yourself because it's going to look really goofy at first. That's okay. What you have is you have unlimited undos, and if you're really upset with what you've done, you can clear everything out. I think undos are going to be fine for us. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my image, my bird here, and I'm going to look at the basic shapes. And I think I can tackle this drawing with 3 different drawings. I can do a shape of the bird. He's just a long, like, bullet, isn't he? And then I can do his wings. So let's just try. So I've chosen the drawing, which is going to automatically complete it. And I'm just going to touch the screen, draw on the screen, kind of go fluid, see what I've got. I'm going to do his little legs. Come on up, and if I stop here, it's going to complete that for me. Now, I don't know if you can see that. Let me bring it up a little bit closer so that you can see. That may not be the ideal drawing. No problem. I'm just practicing. So when I hit undo, it all goes away. So now, let's try that again. Now, every time you take your stylus off, it's going to create a different undo opportunity. So if I was to do a box here, which is not something that I want at all, and I hit undo, it's going to take that away and not the one I did before. So here we go. This one is going to be for realsies, but I want to show you another trick. A lot of times when you touch the screen, you're going to create a design, and it's kind of hard to keep your hand off the screen when you're trying to draw. So let's undo that. And then here's a stylus. Now the stylus that comes with the machine is just fine, but sometimes I want something a little bit longer so I can keep my hand away and not touch the working workspace of the IQ Designer. You can also do what artists do, and you can have a drawing stick over the top, and that's something that you can use to help balance your hand if you want to get a little bit closer. So I can use this ruler to help me steady my hand and have it be a little bit closer to the bird. So okay, here we go. And I stopped just a little bit short. Now let's do a wing. Now, even though that's a separate unit, as long as it's touching the other one, the computer inside the machine is going to create this as one continuous design. So let me try my other wing. Now, that may not look very good, and admittedly it might not be what you're thinking of as fine art when it comes to a quilting design, but I'm going to tell you another secret. It's okay, and if you use really fine thread, then this is probably going to stitch out pretty good. And remember, you can practice and practice and practice. Even if you're going to want to get a straight line and you just can't draw one, there's built-in shapes in IQ Designer, and you can take those lines or part of those lines and create your own custom design using those. Now let's see what this is going to look like. when I take it over to be a quilting design. So let's take away the bird, and you can see there's my design. Now if I squint, it's not a bad little bird, and I think it might work. All these little goofy little jagged lines, well, they kind of look like a fun part of the bird to me. And quite honestly, I've done some quilting that looks a lot like this that I've drawn, and it turns out fine on the quilt. So when we touch, one thing that we're going to want to remember to do, this is artwork. And if there's any part of the artwork that I really like say I drew the body and it turned out really great, I could take that artwork and put it into the memory of the machine. Now, when I'm happy with my design that I just created, I'm going to put that artwork in the memory of the machine as well. Why? Well, I might want to come back and modify it, because I can. If there's a part that I really don't like, I can use the eraser function and erase part of it. If I want to do something on the side of my quilt and only have a half a bird coming in, well, I can cut off half this design with the eraser, and I automatically have that custom design for the side or even the corners of my quilt. So let's see what this looks like. We're going to put this artwork into the memory of the machine. And when we go next, what we have is we have our bird, don't we? Now I have him being stitched out in a double run, and I have red. I'm going to use the color that I'm going to use anyway, but red helped me see that outline when I drew it. And I can change the different parts of it. I'm okay with this run pitch, which is the stitch length. I could change that as well if I wanted to, but let's hit preview and see what we got. Now, there is my custom quilting design, and when I hit set, it's going to send it off to the land of embroidery, and it's going to ask me if I really want to see that image that I used to trace it as well. Now, I kind of do. Let's see what it looks like. Now, there's my quilting design in stitches over the top of my bird that I've already put in. I want you to notice, we're going to take that image away, and I can take this embroidery design, and it's an embroidery design. I can do anything I can do with any other embroidery design that I brought in. I can change the size of it. I can recalculate the stitches and make this into a much tinier bird. Hey, he looks pretty good. I can make him big too. And I can make a giant bird if I want to. So there's all kinds of things that I can do. I can flip him, flop him, rotate him. He's an embroidered design, and it took me only a few minutes to create him. Now, you might want to take a little bit more time and make your bird a little bit more special, but quite frankly, something like this is probably going to work on your quilt. Now, when you get to quilting it, then something like this is going to be a design that you can use all over on your quilt. And that's what I did on my quilt. And I'll show you all the different birds that came on there. And it doesn't have to be in a strict pattern. Could it be? Could I have a certain place where I've put certain designs? Absolutely. And don't forget, you can combine you can create a design and combine it with other designs as well. Say you have a built-in quilting design that has a leaf, but you really want to add a flower. Feel free to go into IQ Designer and create your own image. Now, there's other things that I can do. I can tell the machine that I want to have it create and trace an image that I already have. I'm going to stitch out another one of my little birds here, but then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to reconnoiter and we're going to have the machine trace something. So let's hoop it up and let's move it over and let's stitch my bird. And I'm going to show you what it looks like if you just trace something quickly, and you can judge for yourself to see if it works. I think I want to make my bird small because there's not much room left on my quilt. So let's make him as small as we can. Pretty good. Now, when you do embroidery quilting, like I said, there's all kinds of different hints and tricks that I have in your handout, but one of them that's really kind of fun is using a hoop that's not your standard hoop. This is the standard big hoop, and it comes with the Altair, and it's really big, and I can get a lot of quilting in there. But there's other hoops that you can get as well, and what you can do with those is you can quickly move your quilt and reconfigure it and readjust it to do some quick, fast, and easy quilting. And I'm going to talk about a magnetic hoop for just a second. So a magnetic hoop is a hoop that goes onto your machine. The quilt lay or the embroidery project lays over the top, and it's held on by magnets. Why is this hoop great for doing embroidery quilting? Well, you can leave it on the machine, move the quilt around, and quickly re-hoop your quilt. So I'm going to move this. Let's see, what orientation is my little birdie? He is here. Let's find a spot that works. Let's see, there's an empty spot right now. So I'm going to put it right in the middle of where I want my little birdie to be. And then with a magnetic hoop, you obviously have magnets that's going to hold down the quilt. Now I'm going to just snap those on the side. And that's as easy as it is to hoop my quilt. And when I move it, it's just as easy. So let's see, I think my bird's going to be right in there. I could use all kinds of different things to place him, but I think I'm pretty good to go. I'm using thin thread to quilt my quilt, and I'm using a matching color on the bottom. Now this is Quilter Select 80 weight para cotton poly thread. Why am I showing it? Because it's a very thin thread. And if your thread is thin, then any discrepancies in your quilting design, you know, from your drawing, they kind of melt into the background of your fabric. So I suggest a real thin thread. I got it ready to go. I have my thin thread on the top, matching bobbin in the bottom, lower the presser foot, and let's see how my bird stacks up against all the other birds. Got to send it to embroidery first. Green means go. You got to push the right buttons. So I'm going to quilt this bird, and I'll be right back. So now that design, it only took a couple of minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it out of the hoop so I can show you how cool it came out. And you know, like I said, it doesn't look that fantastic when you're looking at the drawing on the screen, but somehow when you quilt it, it comes out pretty nice. So let me hold it up to here. Now I used matching thread and I used a fine thread. So hopefully you can see it when I bring it up to the camera. So here we go. It turned out kind of looking like a crane. Here's another one that I did. Let me see if you can see that one. I made it a little bit bigger and it looks like a crane. And all these little imperfections, it's okay. It's all right. If I wanted an absolutely perfect one, well, I have another way to do that. And let me share that with you. And it is pretty fast. Remember I said you can take an image and you can use an image and IQ Designer will automatically render that image for you? Well, using the IQ Positioning app, I can also take another image, some that's on my device. A coloring book page is awesome for that. So let me show you how that works. So what I can do is I can select an image for creating a design, and when I touch that, it brings up all the different images on my iPad. Now, here's a cool crane that I picked up as a coloring book image. I'm going to send that off to the machine. It's sending it, and now I can pull up that image in IQ Designer, and I didn't have to draw a thing. I just had to be clever enough to find one. This time, let's go into IQ Designer and let's pull up that image. Now, remember I brought up the image before and I traced? Well, let's tell the machine we want it to use the line wizard to trace it for us. So we're going to go line design. We brought it in off the app. We brought in that image. And there it is. When we hit set, it brings up my cool stork, and I can take it and I can crop off what doesn't please me. That looks pretty good. When I say OK, there it is. I'm going to hit set. Now, I know I want that double line, right? So I'm going to touch the line properties. I'm going to pick that. And let's pick a color just to make sure we got everything. OK. Touch the bucket. Touch the bird. Oh, I didn't get his little eye. I'm going to touch that also. And I'm going to remove the website. So I'm going to erase that because I don't want that necessarily on my quilt. And let's take away that image and see what we got. Look at that. Look how fast that was. Did you time me? So let's hit next. Oh, there he is. We'll make sure we get all the different parts and pieces. Looks good to me. Let's put that in the memory of the machine just in case. Preview. There's my bird. When I hit set, sends it off to the land of embroidery. And remember, I can treat this like any other embroidery. Say I want it to be really big. That's a really big bird, my friends. So go out and get a coloring book image if you don't feel confident to trace it yourself. The Altair and IQ Designer, you can get so many beautiful, perfect custom quilting designs. Your quilt can be as special as you want it. You can tell whatever story you want. Because in your quilting, it's not just an art, it's a way to share what we love to other people. I'm going to send it off to George. He's going to tell you a little bit more about the Baby Lock Altair. Remember, IQ Designer is your portal to supreme creativity, and the Altair, well, it's a magic machine to help you fly into the best quilting you've ever done. Thanks for watching me today, and send it off to George.
Thanks, Cathy. As usual, that was an incredible presentation. The Baby Lock Altair is dollar for dollar the most advanced machine in the industry. It has a large 9.5 by 14-inch embroidery area, plus 494 built-in beautiful designs, 30 of the most amazing fonts that you can arc and array and edit, plus many large, beautiful monograms. You have the ability to create a design without a computer. With the IQ Designer, you can take an image from a phone, send it to the machine, and it turns into beautiful embroidery instantly. You also have an automatic applique creator to create great borders around names and other embroidery designs. Plus, of course, we love our never miss needle threader, and it also cuts all the jump stitches that you want. Now, it's not just for embroidery. This is an incredible machine with an 11.25-inch opening. It also has a automatic fabric sensor. This fabric sensor senses heavy fabric like denim and sews automatically from there. It will also sew on lighter fabric like tricot. It will sew elastic. It's incredible. Now, for the real difficult fabric and for quilting, it has a digital dual feed with a belt system that controls all fabrics perfectly. It also has a laser guide, so you can guide for that perfect seam allowance. It's incredible. As I mentioned, this is dollar for dollar the most advanced machine in the industry. We have a special package right now. The total package value is $14,999, but we have it on sale for $8,999. We're offering free shipping across the country, as well as we have interest-free payments of under $188 a month. But that's not all. We have a special bonus for a limited time, and while supplies last, we're including 63 spools of beautiful embroidery thread, 2 separate design collections by Anita Good Design, which has over 600 design files in all different styles. We're including stabilizer, all kinds of needles, bobbins, and a membership to Love of Knowledge. We're here, you're going to see all kinds of demonstrations and techniques on the Baby Lock Altair and other sewing techniques. This is for a limited time, but I also mentioned we have interest-free payments. Now, for those who don't want to finance, we have even a better bonus. So give us a call at 1-800-865-9664 or click on the link to order today. Bye for now.